Hey, so nice to see you. I know we've been, chatting a little bit inside the main room here at BA. It's been an amazing event, and I am so excited to connect with you, dive deeper into what you're all about in your consulting business, and how you help individuals create leadership that they can fall in love with in the office, at home, and what I'm excited to dive into, even in the bedroom. So I'm so excited to connect with you. I'm Kendryah, as you know, and I would love to just chat and learn more about what it is that you do.
I love this. This is so fun. We've got people sitting outside, event going on in the other room. I'm really honored to be here. It's so great to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
My business is a labor of love. I work with business owners specifically, and I see so many times, serial entrepreneurs that are here to solve a problem. And they don't really care what problem it is, but something that they can solve a problem, make some money, maybe have an exit, sell it on, and then move on to solving the next problem. And I really feel what God's put me on the planet for is to really support people, specifically business owners, people that want to be innovative and make their own money, to rinse as much as they can out of this life. So often I talk to people about living a life worth dying for. And I think that being able to create a great business is awesome. There's so much merit in an achievement like that. But what about the legacy that you leave behind with your family? How does your wife talk about you behind your back, even when you're having conflict? How does she talk about you in rooms that you're not in? How will your kids remember you as you grew into business? And I'm speaking this from a perspective that I work with mostly men, so her at home is coming from that place. So
you get a unique perspective, with your clients. So what was it that inspired your coaching and consulting journey? Like, what was it that jump started this entire process? Like, what lights, what is the fire to your passion? I had a light bulb moment. My accent's from New Zealand, so I'm not Australian. Came from New Zealand. I grew up there. I'm Canadian born, so dual citizenship. I'm very lucky, very blessed. I went and did an overseas adventure and experience in the UK. I was there for about 2 years, and I met a girl at a boxing gym, and we started a boxing company called Evolution Me, specifically for stress relief and empowerment for women. Now, the boxing training was fun. We did it in parks. We did it on rooftops, on top of cafes. We had all of these different places. It was so fun. It was great. But what I realized was it wasn't the boxing that was necessarily making the difference. It was something about me and the facilitated conversations that we were having. And so I knew I had a gift. I was in a transition phase. I was running out of money when I was in the UK. I had probably about 6 months left on my visa, and I needed to decide what I was going to do next. And this gift thing that I felt, I knew I needed to refine it so that I actually knew what I was doing with it, so that I could harness it in a way that was really impactful. So I made the move to Canada. I moved there with about $300, and I set myself up in a way. Actually, side note, something that I don't share a lot is that $300 was actually lent to me from about £2,000 that a girlfriend had lent me at the time. I was flat broke. I had basically run out of all of my money creating this boxing business. Visa was running out, and I needed to move to my next place of residence. But I was hell-bent on creating an impact for people and creating a life for myself that I could really be proud of. And there's so many different breadcrumbs on this journey that I've had in my life where I had $300 in my bank account, like I said. And I was looking for training. I was looking for this guidance. And I looked at different universities. I looked at a Tony Robbins program. I looked at all of these different places where I could get training that I really felt would harness my gift. And then I found this one program, which was the longest timeline and the most expensive. It was a year long. It was $20,000. And I went to this workshop that they let me in for free. I was meant to pay $150, but I was like, I've got $300. I'm not spending half of my remaining dollars. And they said, okay, well, we'll let you come in for free. If you were going to join up anyway, we'd take that off your tuition. So I go to this workshop having no idea how long or how much this program was. And it was the first time that I ever saw something in someone else, like a skill set, because I felt seen. Like they were like a premonition is probably what I would call it at the time. They could see something about me that hunger probably.
There's no way that they could have known that. Like it was an example of, I see you sitting in a cafe drinking coffee and having cake. And that was my anxiety-ridden stress reliever. I would do that all the time. And I was like, how could they know that? And I even said, at the end of that workshop, I was like, okay, what did I say? Like, what's the NLP, strategy? What did I do with my shoulder that had you know that? And then they laughed and they kind of looked at each other. There were 3 women. They all looked at each other and they're like, oh, we're mind readers. Ha, ha, ha. And then they giggled. And I was like, I don't know what they're talking about, but I want that.
Yeah.
And then I found the program, the price, and I was like, well, there's no way I can make it happen. And through being coached and supported in my own work to get rid of my own limiting barriers and the things that I didn't think that I was capable of, I signed up for that program. I did what I needed to do to create that $20,000 for that program. I built my business along the way, continued to stay in training, continuing education in my craft.
That's awesome.
And kept on going.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Like, that's a story that I feel like that's so inspiring, because I think, that's behind the breakthrough of like what it's taken to get to where you are now, which is, you're blossoming and about to go to new heights. And it started with nothing. Basically, it started with faith, and the calling really is what it was. And you're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there, and I'm going to stay consistent. And I feel like that's the secret sauce to basically everybody's success who's here, all these one percenters. And it's really like pulling back the curtains and exposing, like, it's not been an easy journey. It's been a struggle. And that's why the 1% are the 1%. We're hungry, and we're just ambitious, and whatever it takes to get there, we're going to do. So I really value that about you. So how can somebody develop the leadership skills that you've developed? Like, how can somebody, what is your give to somebody who's like, I want to be in that place to be able to help people like Michelle is helping people? Like, how can I get there, and how can I accomplish and move in that calling myself? Like, what steps can I take to achieve?
Yes. Love that question. The basic answer is work on yourself. So oxygen mask analogy, work on yourself first. But the way that I would expand on that is in this particular way of working, this methodology of coaching and leadership development is by getting really clear on who we are. So I'd be curious on your own belief system around this too, as I describe it, and how it might resonate or not. People are both light and dark. We come into the world with a shining light, and as we progress through life, as we are coming of age, something happens. So we come from God. We get placed into the care of our parents, and everything is perfect. We are full joy. We're full upset, anger, rage, disgust, all of the different things. Yeah. But life is good. We're not terrified or scarred by anything. And then at some point in our life's journey, something happens. And it gives us some information about ourselves, typically about us, other people, and the world. And as we go through our journey of life, we start taking little pieces of evidence without even knowing that it's happening. Without even knowing that it's happening. And we gain the evidence, and it becomes true. And so part of my job, what I do with people and how other people could get them themselves, is by doing the deep work to figure out, well, who do they actually come to the world as? Connection, love, joy, brilliance, creation, whatever it might be, their pure essential nature. And then getting really clear on, and how have they dimmed that light? What has now become their shadow that they operate with? Like, where did they need to learn to be manipulative? Where did they need to learn to lie, to hide, to play small? And how can they begin to do those things on purpose when it's needed? Because sometimes these things are necessary. If you're walking down a dark alley and you see someone, you might need to be really small and dim your light so that you're not an attractive piece of prey. But sometimes we do those things from our shadow and our survival that just get in the way of the abundance that we could create in our life. So getting really clear.
So good. It's so good. It's like you're taking what is negative. It's like sales, right? Like, it is in a way, manipulative skill set. Because you have to be able to read somebody, discern where they're at, like know when to give, when to pull back. And I love that. Like, you're taking something that it would be perceived as a negative, and then utilizing it for the good, and really using it to scale, essentially, and become a better version of yourself. Are Are there any common challenges that people face when trying to balance leadership at work and at home? Like any common denominator that you've noticed within your clients?
Mm-hmm. Oh, let me see if there's one particular. Let's play with intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Let's go there.
Intimacy is a good one.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of someone I was working with recently. I met with somebody that had hired me for other people. He was a C-suite executive, and he needed me to work with some up-and-coming senior management. And after working with them for some time and liaising with this particular person, I started to recognize that they were the ones that really needed this work. Yes, the other people did too, but this person really, really needed this work. And the reason that I say that statement with such conviction is because I didn't know who I was going to meet each time I interacted with him. And I even said to him at a lunch meeting that we had, I said, hey, can I be straight with you? He was like, sure. And I said, to be honest, I don't really know how to interact with you in this moment because I don't really know who I'm speaking with. And this very polished corporate executive was like, well, whatever do you mean? And it was like, that there is what I mean. There's no intrigue, there's no genuine concern or curiosity. It's like, what is actually going on in you when I share with you that I don't know who I'm speaking with? So the intimacy that this particular person was unwilling, and it's not unable. People are able to do everything. It's willingness needs to come first. Is are you actually willing to be intimate with the person in front of you? And that's not necessarily sexual or romantic. I mean, a lot of friendships will experience a surface level interaction or experience with people when really what they want is depth and connection. Like, hey, if I'm got my back up against the wall and I'm terrified, or I'm heartbroken, or if I'm celebrating something that you haven't achieved, can you hold me in that? Can you love me in the face of it?
Yeah.
And then if we're just looking at that from the surface level of intimacy, how does that then show up everywhere else in their lives? How does it show up in their romantic relationship? How does it show up with their kids? There's so many stories of parents that are scared of scarring their kids, and so they don't let them get too close, and they don't get too close to their children. And so intimacy is a common one that I deal with in my leaders.
How do they let their guard down? Because somebody who's afraid to be intimate, there's deep roots in that, right? It's like, what were they scarred? How do you help them navigate through that and break through and be vulnerable for maybe for the first time? Maybe that's something that they've always struggled with and never been confronted by or with. Like, how do you help them dig deep and uncover that and work through it? And then, like, what's that journey and that process look like for that client?
So uncovering it first is, it can be tedious ground to uncover that particular belief. And usually what's required is by doing the thing that they really don't want to do. Like, opening the kimono and exposing themselves in some way. And so if we used something that I came across a lot was baby boomers not being told by their parents that they were loved.
Okay,
I love you.
Good.
I love you. I love you was scary, therefore they never said it to their children. I don't even know if I've ever told my son that I love them. Okay, cool. Wow. That's your practice. How many people in the next week, right, if I meet with my clients every week, how many people can you say, I love you? Well, I'll say 10, right? They make a declaration. They come back the following week and they start sharing what's coming up for them, and then we work through it.
That's awesome.
So they might say, I went to say it and I thought I was going to throw up. Okay, what thoughts did you have when that was going on? Well, what if they didn't say it back? What if they got
Fear
awkward?
Of rejection.
What if I got rejected? When was a time in your life that you felt rejected? So this is kind of the part of like, how do we uncover it is by going and doing the scary and courageous thing and then noticing what comes up. But you have to be so patient because so often people will do the thing, but they're not actually present with what's going on in their body or their mind or their thoughts or their heart. A really good example that I have of this is I had a client that was in a really toxic breakup. They had broken up, but she was really struggling with letting him go. And there's a viral post that talks about how extreme independence is a trauma response. And I sent it to her, and I was like, hey, read this. And she read it through really fast. No emotion, no nothing, just read through it, like very analytical, very A-type. She's very structured this way. And I was like, that's great. Thanks so much for reading it. Now I want you to slow down, and I want you to breathe between every second and third word. She couldn't say 2 words after her first breath. She was done, because she was actually allowing herself to be present with the words that she was saying and how they deeply impacted her. And so when we're uncovering certain belief systems, we need to slow down so that we can check in with ourselves. What's going on in my body? What's going on in my mind? Am I thinking about how I can get out of this, or run to the bathroom so I don't need to do a podcast interview with somebody that I've just met, or whatever it might be? And how can we slow down and really start to discern what that is? Your second question,
so good.
How do we disrupt it or dismantle it? So there are 3 main things that you can do once you're present to a belief. You can empower it. Let's say love is scary, or love is dangerous. Let's say that's your belief. Love, if we're using the I love you example, love is dangerous. Okay, do you want to empower that belief? Yes. Okay, love is dangerous. I'm just going to, I love the way my life is from that belief. I don't want anything different in the area, realm of love. I'm just going to keep doing it. Okay, empower it. Cool. Right? That has its own consequences and benefits, right? You'll stay safe. You won't get hurt, but you also won't have safe. The other thing that you can do is you can bankrupt it. Now, bankrupting it, in my opinion, is probably one of the most painful but most worthwhile ways of dismantling any kind of belief.
Interesting.
And what I mean by bankrupting it is that you do it on purpose. Okay, love is dangerous. So we're not just empowering it, like actually giving it a good feeling. We're going to do it on purpose every single day. So if love is dangerous, how does that have you show up the moment that you wake up? How does love is dangerous show up when you're with your best friend or with your lover or with a potential client or business transaction? If love is dangerous and you're operating from that place all the time, so as to exhaust it. And so sometimes I'll give this practice to my clients 2 days on, 1 day off. Because if you did it all the time, you'd destroy your life, right? So 2 days on, 1 day off, or something that my clients will actually be able to exhaust it with. And then the other one is to shift the context. So we're clear, love is dangerous. Okay. Well, we don't want to believe that that is the truth. We want to shift our belief system so that I can look at you and we can stare left eye to left eye for a second and we can be like, that's my soul sister.
Yeah.
So, and feel that love and risk whatever might come of that. So we need to shift the belief. So we don't want that one anymore. So we're going to shift something else where love is peace. Love is peace. So we're actually going to shift that belief. So that's changing the context. And then we create practices. We put reminders in our phone. We put a Post-it note in our office. We change our screensaver, our password, or whatever it might be. Practices so that we remember this shift in context. Because so often in coaching and in my work, even in an event, right? Enthusiasm has a half-life. You get into that conversation with your coach, your therapist, your mentor, half of it goes out the window by the time you've walked out the door. So you need to create structures. You said you're a girl of structure earlier. Structures and practices so that you can actually remember the new thing that you're trying on, like a new jacket. How does this fit? What results am I generating from this new belief?
That's so practical. It's so simple.
Yes.
But it's like you need the practicality of it and just putting it into practice every single day. Just little things, and forcing yourself. It's like forcing the new mindset, the new belief system by actions, by practical, simple actions. And that takes the scary out of it. And that's, I think that it's so digestible, and that's why you see such great results with your clients. I feel like, you just make it, you make it tangible. Michelle, I had such a great time chatting with you. I have learned so much just hanging out with you for a couple of days. Are there any exciting projects you have coming up? And where can listeners find out more about you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. A great conversation. Yeah. My website, MichelleAubrey.com. You can also find me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm just starting an X page. I'm still used to calling it Twitter. But Michelle Aubrey or Michelle Aubrey Coaching on pretty much any handle. And anything that I've got coming up. My focus right now, I'm looking at creating 3 new male clients that are looking at increasing their love, their intimacy with their wives, their leadership in their careers, and their sex and connection in the bedroom. So any men that are looking at diving deep into themselves and wanting to create an even juicier life, that's what I'm up to right now.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're gonna have a bit.